You're listening to the IO Soapbox with Aiken. I'm an IO psychologist, which of course means no one knows what I do. Now on this show, we are going to talk about IO psychology. I'm hoping that some of you not in IO will want to join us, and those of you in IO will be inspired to break new ground. Now, let's get me a cup of coffee, because I'm tired, and then it's time for me to rant about random things on my soapbox.
Yeah, so I know that we have I know that we have an appointment, but I'm so sorry, I forget all the time what's going on. What are we talking about again?
So you did a lecture in my class 2 weeks ago.
Okay, all right. It's like
right?
It's like 200.
The
statistics class.
Yeah,
okay.
that class, and you talked about industrial organizational psychology.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've never heard of that before.
Yes.
But your lecture made it seem really interesting, so I wanted to talk to you about what it is, everything about it, because I know nothing about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of what it is, look at last week's episode because we kind of covered that, okay? All right, now what else do you want to know?
So, what does an industrial organizational psychologist do specifically?
I was going to say, everything. What don't we do? It really is everything. Anything at work, anything that has to do with organizations, IO psychologists are involved there. So, of course, when people think about industrial organizational psychology, if they think about industrial organizational psychology, typically the first thought is kind of consulting, right? So a lot of people think about going into consulting, human capital management consulting or something like that, talent. They have all these fancy buzzwords these days for the different types of consulting people do. But it's not just consulting. That is something that IOs have been doing for a while, but we are also now really moving into human resources. So human resources has been evolving from a more kind of transactional benefits, paperwork-oriented part of an organization to more of what can be a strategic partner in advising the organization. So we're actually seeing a lot of industrial organizational psychologists moving into human resources and shaping the way human resources gets done. Because, of course, HR historically is kind of a dirty word, right? People always kind of say things about their HR departments. Well, that's starting to change in some organizations faster than others, and part of that movement is industrial organizational psychologists moving into the space. We have IO psychologists who do recruiting. We have IO psychologists who do management, project management, and data analytics. So a lot of business intelligence is also going to be IO related. We do have a lot of people who specialize in statistics. Industrial organizational psychology is a fairly quantitative field. So we do have a nice chunk of the space in terms of empirical-based evidence for businesses. So that's a huge chunk. So we have the consulting, we have human resources, we have data analytics, you have general leadership. In one of my lives, I am the program director for the Industrial Organizational Master's Program at the University of Maryland. And we have people come in from all kinds of students, from all kinds of backgrounds. I've had people transition from social work. I've had people transition from, trying to think of some other areas. Project management is a great one. That's a natural place for IO to come in. But I've also had people come in not because they want to go into consulting or because they want to go into HR or because they want to go into data analytics, but because they want to develop as a leader where they are. Because the tools of IO psychology, as we covered in last week's episode, are really tools for improving the workplace. So any leader can benefit from them. I've had an archivist come through, and she's been in a number of leadership development programs since she came through my program. I've had a lawyer come in, again, to grow as a leader within his organization. I have people in nonprofit organizations come through. They're not in human resources necessarily. They're not in consulting, but they do see some of the challenges with where they're working, and how things are being run, because nonprofits typically can't afford consultants the way that large private firms can. So we're also seeing IO psychologists start to move into nonprofits. Basically, if it has something to do with work, performance management, organizational change, selection, talent development, leadership, negotiation, that's a place where you can use your IO skills. We're everywhere.
So it's clear that you guys do a lot of stuff within the realm of
everything,
pretty much.
We're everywhere.
But specifically, what kind of jobs could I get with a degree or experience in IO psychology?
Sure. So are you thinking about, the kinds of jobs that you might get after a graduate degree, or are you thinking about jobs to help you get there? So something that you might be able to do with a bachelor's degree?
Well, I would say both.
Okay.
But starting with after a master's degree.
Okay. So after your master's degree, and the reason why I asked that is because some of these jobs that I was talking about, some of these areas like consulting, typically but not always look for somebody who has a graduate degree. So certain levels of jobs, like if you were looking on Indeed or one of those classic job search sites, you would probably see something that would say like consultant or associate consultant. Those jobs are typically, not always, but typically going to be marketed to people who have graduate degrees. There are some consulting firms, especially larger consulting firms, that may have kind of associate level roles that are at a lower level for people with bachelor's degrees. So what I would say is, if you're thinking about kind of getting your foot in the door, especially after having a bachelor's degree, look for jobs that say things like analyst. So analyst is one of those terms, is a catch-all term, by the way. So it's sometimes a really useless term because everybody is an analyst. But if you have like a human capital analyst or a data analyst or a research analyst, those are the kinds of terms that are basically like entry-level pseudo-consulting type positions, but they're at that lower level for folks who have bachelor's degrees. So they're getting your foot in the door. And the analyst roles in some organizations build to consultant roles, but those first roles are the analyst roles. Look into, search for human resources, search for, research associate jobs or research assistant jobs. Those are going to help kind of get a foot in the door. I think I already mentioned associate consultant. So any jobs, like if you're looking at human capital, so you look at talent, human capital, those kinds of words are the words that organizations are using these days to denote the kind of work that IOs really do. So go ahead, use the search terms: analyst, research, data, consulting, associate, human capital, talent, even recruiting or sourcing can help get you into IO-related work as a first step after a bachelor's degree and sometimes after a master's degree. After your master's degree or PhD, depending upon where you think you want to go, and we can talk about that eventually, then you might be able to go for jobs that are more kind of a higher level, director level, or pure consultant or senior consultant, or those kinds of jobs start to open up with more education and with more experience. But honestly, if you're in a small enough company or in a nonprofit, jobs that aren't technically IO jobs can become IO jobs, because a small company or a nonprofit is going to be short-staffed. They're going to have low staffing compared to the needs of the organization, typically. So what that means is that you get to do a lot of what we call role sculpting in those sorts of roles, where you come in and you start to say, you explore. You say, okay, so the organization is lacking this, let me put it in place. So you can end up creating a role that's outside of what your job says you're going to do that is IO related. So for example, one of my alumni ended up working as a benefits consultant while he was in the program. And so he was consulting for small companies on the Affordable Care Act. Now, that was not what he really wanted to do, but it was kind of a foot in the door. And what happened was he got in and he noticed that his organization didn't have an onboarding program. And he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make one. I'm just gonna create one. Why not, right? So his boss let him. He had no problem with that. So now that's something that had nothing to do with his actual job, but it showed that IO and flexed that IO side, and that helped leverage him into his future jobs, because he was sculpting his role there and kind of expanding it. I had a student, an applicant, who didn't end up coming here. He ended up going to a program that was more organizational change related, but he worked in a manufacturing organization. And so again, it was like his job was more administrative, and what he ended up doing was creating whole new processes for organizing materials and things like that the whole company would roll out. That's organizational change. That's not in his job description, but he's driving organizational change. Had another alumnus really wanted to get into internal consulting within her organization. She was a project manager, and she started flexing and doing, bringing her IO related skills and flexing them in her place of work. And now she runs an internal human capital consulting function within her organization that they created for her after she was doing all of this extra work. So even if you're in a job that doesn't have words like analyst or consultant or data or human capital or talent or sourcing or recruiting or any of those things that you would typically look for, you can still make space for yourself to do IO related work, because IO related work is the work of improving work, and there's always space for that. One of my alumni was a member of a small team that conducted and authored a diversity study for an organization of 14,500 government civilians, military members, and contractors. And their team has since transitioned to implementing the study's recommendations and is doing change management, coaching, advising, and additional research to inform those different policy changes. I have another alumnus who is coordinating employee engagement within a division of over 100 staff. And they've created communication tools, trainings, different social activities to understand and engage the staff, including, developing career paths, succession planning, which is really, really key. And they also redid all of their employees' performance plans. And again, in terms of the C-suite impact, briefing management on IO principles, including transparency, trust, and engagement. One of the things that I learned when I was building the program here at the University of Maryland, one of my mentors, Mark Sokol, who is also an alumnus from the same PhD program that I'm from, he's been coaching me ever since I was a little baby graduate student. And when I was developing this program, what he told me stories about the importance of translation and speaking in a language that businesses understand. Because one of the challenges can be you have a lot of specialized knowledge and it's very technical. But if you're not able to communicate that technical knowledge in a way that is accessible to people who don't have that background, you can't possibly have impact. So when I see one of my alumni saying that IO helps get them in the room with the C-suite, then I know that that's how we're having an impact as IO and as this program, through this program. So I loved that one. Actually, my entire second cohort developed the vision, mission, and values for the master's program that I run here at the University of Maryland. And then one of them ended up leading a vision, mission, and values development project in their department. And they've now since migrated from, again, she's gone from a more kind of administrative support role to an organizational change role within her department as she's taken on more of those strategic, big picture initiatives that have started to really shape and change the way your department works. So, all very nice stuff.
That's actually a lot of really good information. A lot of good information. Have you ever considered doing a podcast or putting yourself on YouTube for people who kind of like me, who don't know anything about it and who don't have the opportunity to really get to know about it?
Yeah, we kind of, we actually just started filming and you're on it.
I'm on what?
You're on the YouTube channel.
Okay. Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, somebody else told me that. She was pretty cool.
She has she's a great person.
Yeah, she really, it was great. She kind of came in, she asked me almost some of the same questions that you asked me. They almost identically, almost like she's you. You know what's so interesting too? You told me you were a videographer, right?
Yeah, I am.
So is she.
That's crazy. Wow.
Right. No, she's actually the one who is recording the YouTube videos.
She's here right now?
Don't panic.
Oh my gosh.
Don't panic, but she is in the room.
Well, I don't want to steal her shine, so I'm going to go.
That's fair. I can't even be mad about that.
Thank you so much for talking to me, Dr. Aiken.
My pleasure. You have a great day. Get out of here. Get out of here.